And I'd like to call the June 19th session of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order. And again, welcome those who are here. As you noticed, Commissioner Smith is not here physically. He will be joining us virtually. And also, as is customary, we will open with the prayer and the pledge. And I've called on Commissioner Tony Braswell to lead us in the prayer and Commissioner Ted Godwin to lead us in the pledge. So if you would, please stand.
Let's bow our heads. Our Father, as we come to you in prayer tonight, we ask our blessings upon us as we meet to make decisions for our county. We ask that you give us the wisdom to operate in a manner which be pleasing to you. Our Father, we thank you for looking out for our soldiers in foreign countries. We pray for peace. We pray for this country to come together. And we are so fortunate to live in a land of the free that we take our freedom and continue to grow in a peaceful manner. For these things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please face the flag. Present arms. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
You can be seated. And I think it's appropriate, as before we entered the meeting, I've tried to remember to talk about 6 priorities that the Board of Commissioners has established this year and the year previously, and how the budget night, it is very important, and you will see a theme that these 6 priorities are interwoven in everything in the budget, in addition to other items in the meeting. But just to remind you of those 6, first we have infrastructure, then we have financial stewardship, we have land use, we have public safety, and finally we have county employees. So just a reminder of that as we move through our meeting agenda, if you would keep those in your mind as we address the items on our agenda today. I'd also like to point out that we are fortunate enough to have 2 mayors with us tonight. We have Mayor Don Raines of Princeton. Don, good to have you here. And we also have Mayor Byron McAllister of Selma. So Byron, good to have you as well. All right, with that, I will turn it over to the board. Do I have any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move items number 9 and 10. That's public utilities, water and sewer system development fees for fiscal year 23-24, and the fiscal year 23-24 budget discussion and adoption to items 4 and 5, directly after the public comments.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjust the agenda by moving items 9 and 10 up to 4 and 5. Any other discussion on that? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
I think it's 8 and 9.
oh, 8 and 9? Okay.
I just wanted to clear that up.
All right. I think with the motion in a second, we can adjust that then.
Yep, I'm good.
We'll get that right. Thank you, Council, for getting us back on track on that.
It was 8, 9, and 10.
And 10, that's right.
8, 9, and 10. All right, let's go. All right, and we have.
Mr. Chairman, are you keeping public comments at the same place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, public comment will still be in the same place. All right, any other discussion on that? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries and the adjustments to the agenda are noted. Next up, we have consent agenda items. We have, I should have counted these before, we have 7, I think, tonight. We have approval of our May 15th, 6 o'clock meeting minutes. We have some additions to the DOT system. We have the NC Railroad Company Build Ready site grant. We have approval of the Triangle J Council of Governments Charter Amendment. We also have the Envision 2040 Comprehensive Land Use Plan. We have some budget revisions. And finally, we have an appointment to the Claytex Fire Protection District Commission. Any of those items need to be removed?
Just a clarification, Mr. Chairman, that on E, the land use plan, that was just clarifying the July 17th meeting.
Yes, that is correct. And we'll talk about that again in board comments for that date.
I move the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any other discussion or adjustments? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Consent agenda is approved. All right, next up, we have public comments, and that is for the time for any member of the audience that wishes to address the board on an item not already on the agenda to come forward. If you would state your name and your town or township, and in order to balance the need and desire for input with the necessity of disposing of the board's regular business items, speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. To avoid repetitiveness, groups of people supporting or opposing the same positions are encouraged to select a spokesperson to speak. Speakers shall at all times maintain proper decorum and make their comments in a civil manner. And again, this is a public listening opportunity for the board to hear the thoughts and concerns of the public, and not a time for the board to respond or answer any impromptu questions. So with that, if you would please come forward and state your name and your town or township.
Hi, my name is Kelly Bloss. I am from Princeton, North Carolina. I'm with JoCo Angels Opioid Awareness and Support, and I came to speak with you a few weeks ago regarding our program, and I just wanted to, one, just let you know that we would like to come back this year and just share with you the way that we spend our funds, and we understand that we're late to the game for this year, and that's no problem, but we do want to get to know you, and at this point I would just like to introduce you to someone who we've helped, who's been a Johnston County resident for his whole life, and I'm going to let him just finish up with our 3 minutes. Thank you.
How y'all doing?
Good.
My name is Bruce Hatcher. I'm lived in Johnston County all my life. Struggled with a drug addiction for 15 years. In and out of jail. Did prison time for 5 years, and just come back and start using again. Just didn't have the proper help. I was in jail my last time last year, and I met one of my girlfriends met JoCo Angels, and you know, just the love of them and trying to make a difference in the community. They put up the $700 to put me in rehab, and I've successfully completed. I've been going on 16 months clean now. I have a future now. I got a good job, a job that I probably would never get, you know, with my background. But with the changes I've made in my life, you know, that people look past that. So, you know, JoCo Angels is wonderful people. They just the care they have, and just for them to take the time out of their days to kind of cancel and talk with people, and just, you know, taking people here and there, you know, and just to put money up for someone that they don't even know, and just have faith in them. So I just wanted to get up here and speak on that, and just thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak on it. Yeah,
Thank you for that, Bruce.
Good luck to you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes.
All right, anyone else?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Christina Arena, and I am here not only as a representative of Down Home, Carolina, but I'm standing before you today as an African-American biracial woman and a citizen of Smithfield, Johnston County. Today, I would like to discuss a personal matter with you all. When I first moved here 10 years ago, I was made aware of the history of Johnston County. But in these past 10 years, I've known and grown to see the potential of my community. I would hate to think that our judicial system is still operating in the racist mindset of 1967, when there was a billboard as you entered Smithfield welcoming people to Klan country. Today, Juneteenth is an important holiday. It celebrates the end of slavery in the United States, and it serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for racial equality. Given that today is such an important day for our country and large African American community, and most have a fixed schedule to follow, it is vital to acknowledge that Juneteenth is a federal holiday. We know that council members have requested this to be a county holiday in 2020, and we do support that. If you are not familiar with the holiday, let me enlighten you. Today is Juneteenth, a holiday that represents the end of slavery in the United States. Juneteenth is observed annually on June 19th and has its roots in Galveston, Texas, where Union soldiers declared the end of the Civil War and the freedom of all slaves in 1865. Although the Emancipation Proclamation was signed 2 years prior, many slaves in Texas were not informed of their freedom until Union troops arrived. Juneteenth has since become a celebration of African American freedom, culture, and achievements. A day we remember that we aren't free until we are all free. The fact that Johnston County courts did not recognize this day as a county holiday lets us know there is still a lot of work to do. So I urge you to consider making changes to the schedule for the upcoming year to accommodate our federal holiday and pay tribute to those who celebrate it. We would not hold this meeting on July 4th if it landed on a Monday, and we should show the same respect for Juneteenth. By doing so, we not only acknowledge the importance of this holiday, but we may encourage county officials to demonstrate similar respect for the holiday in their future scheduling decisions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Sam?
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
How are you?
I'm up here all smiles because Christina just did a fabulous job. I support everything that she just said, and I hope that y'all take into consideration what she said. But I am Elizabeth Lynn. I'm from Clayton, North Carolina. I'm a representative of Down Home NC, and I wanted to acknowledge our community coming together to support local teachers through Down Home NC's first issue-based campaign. Our first initiative, Teachers Do Their Best When You Supply Success, aims to get school supplies provided to our local teachers through the Board of Ed budget process, through the Board of Ed budget request. The process has been a great learning experience for myself and other members, and we've learned how to hold elected officials accountable and work together to make Johnston County a better place to live and work. We now know that supplies are in the budget, and we've been able to bring light to the miscommunication amongst administration and teachers. We are proud to have been able to sit at the table with you all, the county commissioners, as well as the Board of Education. We have heard you all's commitment to our education system, and we know that the Board of Ed is working to make this issue a priority topic in the upcoming summer meetings. Our chapter has gone from analyzing community surveys to learning how to cut an issue and bringing our campaign proposals to our chapter members to vote on. We've collectively decided to support our local teachers and have rallied the community support since we started. I am glad and here today to tell you that we have collected well over 600 petition signatures in support of this campaign, and it demonstrates the community's desire to ensure that teachers are provided with the necessary supplies to educate our children. And as an advocate not only for my community and the Board of Education's budget request, our group urges you, the county commissioners, to fully fund the Board of Ed's budget request, and we will continue to do our part in holding elected officials accountable, and we hope that you will do your part by making the best decisions for our community. Thank you so much for your time.
And if you want to, do you want to leave that with the deputy clerk?
The petition signature?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can do that. Unless you want to keep them. If you want to keep them, you can, but if you want...
We have them and put it in a system as well, so
Okay.
if you wanted paper versions or in a system, this is what we've collected during site canvases, during local events across Johnston County. But yeah, I can leave them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Mayor McAllister.
Evening, good evening. Chairman Lauder, Commissioner Godwin, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to come up and speak to you this evening. I come to you not as Mayor of Selma, North Carolina tonight, but I come to you as the Chairman of the Johnston County Mayors Association. I'm sure you're all aware of the planning organization Crossroads that Johnston County, Clayton, and Archer Lodge have come to as a result of our 2020 census and the increase in population that we've experienced in this county. We now have the opportunity as a county to form an MPO, a Metropolitan Planning Organization, of our own. Currently, Johnston County, Clayton, Archer Lodge are part of the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or CAMPO. CAMPO currently serves all of Wake County and parts of Granville, Franklin, Harnett, and the aforementioned pieces of Johnston County. I don't want to take up too much of your time this evening, and so I'll get to the point. From 2010 to 2020, we saw the population of this county increase, according to the census, by 47,121 people. Estimates say we added another 10,000 people from 2020 to 2021. 100,000 more people could easily come to Johnston County before 2030. We will most likely not be able to revisit the Johnston County MPO conversation before 2030. The hope of the Johnston County Mayors Association is that you, as the Johnston County Commissioners, will consider the effect this decision will have on the transportation and growth of our communities. The majority of the Johnston County mayors are excited about the possibility of Johnston County having an MPO dedicated to the interest of our municipalities. We do know that time is of the essence as far as making these decisions are concerned, particularly as far as NCDOT's ability to get together the proper information for the forming of an MPO. But we do hope that you will take the time to consider carefully how staying in Campo could affect our futures and how leaving Campo might affect our future as well. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you all very much for the hard work you do for this county. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Mayor Raines.
Thank you, Commissioners, Commissioner Chair Butch Lauder, and everybody else. I'm speaking to you not as Mayor of Princeton, but we do have a Town Commissioner, Michael Holmes, that's joined us with the Princeton Little League, so he's with us tonight. I'm speaking to you as the Chairman of the I-42 Corridor Commission. We had a meeting Thursday. Division 4, Division 2 people were part of that group, discussing MPOs and RPOs throughout eastern North Carolina. And it is a consensus of the I-42 Commission that if a MPO were to come to Johnston County, which we're the fastest growing county in the state, that more funds would be available for improvements to not only I-42 but I-95 or any planning in our area. And the biggest bottleneck in terms of construction of I-42 is going to be the intersection of I-95 and 42, where you've got two interstates and two U.S. highways coming together. It could be $1 billion project. And the last part of that project would be from Wilson Mills to Princeton, and that would be all one project, but it would be a massive project because of the capacity of having to put that intersection together. So what I would suggest before making the decision to stay with capital area is perhaps to do some more thorough research and to get economic development involved to see what impact that would be to have an MPO. Kevin Doherty is a major player in that intersection, and just have some more study to determine whether it's best for Johnston County to remain in the capital area or to have their own PO. And I thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Madam Clerk, do we have any emails? Okay, no emails. All right, so we will now move on to the adjusted agenda item, formerly 8, now number 4, the water and wastewater system development fee study for fiscal year 2024.
Mr. Chairman, as much as we like to hear from our Public Utilities Director, I would make a motion, since we've heard this before, in regard to motion item number 4, to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee study for fiscal year 2024, including the update water and sewer capacity improvements. And in regard to number 9, included in previously number 9, now number 5, to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee study for fiscal year 2024, the water system development fees and water buck capacity fees effective October 1st, 2023, and the sewer development fees and sewer buck capacity fees effective July 1, 2023 as part of the fiscal year 23-24 budget.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Since we've already had the public hearing on that on June 5th, I would support that.
All right, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think we had pretty thorough discussions and presentations on that previously, so any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve items now 4 and 5. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
There we go. Any opposed, nay? The agenda items are approved. Thank you. All right, now we will move on to the fiscal year 23-24 county budget discussion and adoption. And I will turn that over to Vice Chair Harris, who has worked diligently on this. I also want to thank the staff for the countless hours that you put in with all the things we go back and forth and throw at you all the time, 24 hours a day, maybe not 7 days a week. Maybe we give you 1 day off a week, but we appreciate the effort that not only the staff that are here, but the ones who worked on the departmental budgets. Fred, can you mute yourself, Fred? There we go. All right, so thank you to all the staff, and then I will thank my fellow commissioners for likewise the number of hours that you put in going through this, reviewing it again and again and again. So with that,
If we discussed it on a weekend, we don't get time and a half, do we?
I don't think so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo your appreciation to all involved. It's been a long process, and I think we're here. So tonight I'd like to make a motion to adopt the county manager's proposed budget with the following revisions. Reduce the property tax rate from 73 cents to 69 cents per $100 valuation. To appropriate Johnston County Public Schools a total of $88,497,179 for current expense and $6 million for capital outlay. To appropriate up to $4 million to the 911 Communications Center for communications operability improvements in the schools. To appropriate to Johnston Community College $6,912,390 for current expense and $1.2 million for capital outlay. To appropriate the Veterans Office $50,000 for transportation services for our veterans. To appropriate the town of Micro up to $180,000 for Micro Community Building Project, subject to project updates prior to disbursement of funds. A 5% pay adjustment for employees in July with the possibility of a 2% performance pay adjustment in October. Salaries effective July 1, 2023. The chairman of the Board of Commissioners, the salary would be $29,834 with a travel allowance of $8,400. Commissioners would be $23,834 with a travel allowance of $6,600. The clerk to the Board of Commissioners, $85,000. County attorney, $200,000. The county manager, $257,451. The tax administrator, $144,538. To appropriate $100,000 to the My Kids Club. To appropriate $45,000 to the Smithfield Rescue Mission. Appropriate $325,000 to Harbor. Appropriate $100,000 to the Princeton Little Tar Heel League. Appropriate $100,000 to Project Access. Designate that the present use value rollback funds on recurring fiscal year basis for land preservation projects would be approved by the board on a case-by-case basis. Appropriate $825,000 to the Triangle Land Conservancy using $110,000 from the PUV rollback and another $715,000 from the general fund. Appropriate an additional $12,000 to Community and Senior Services for additional match needed for their increased home and community care block grant. Appropriate a one-time $650,000 solid waste fund for the solid waste convenience centers to transition away from the decal program starting in fiscal year 24-25. For fiscal year 23-24, the decals to be sold on a quarterly prorated basis. Quarter one, it would be $100. Quarter two would be $75. Quarter three would be $50. And in the fourth quarter of the year, there would be $25. The decals will be eliminated June 30th, 2024, and the board will evaluate an enterprise fund availability fee to be adopted at a later meeting for implementation in fiscal year 24-25. Additionally, appropriate a one-time $4.2 million allocation for the start of the Phase 2 fire tax funding matrix and instruct staff to move to the creation of a single county fire protection service district. The board will move to adopt a countywide fire service tax district based on the protection service needs effective fiscal year 24-25. Approve the individual fire service district rate adjustments. Brogdon Fire Department to 12 cents, Selma Fire Department to 13 cents, Antioch Fire Department to 10 cents, Northside Fire Department to 12 cents, Wilson's Mills Fire Department to 8 cents, Claytex Fire District to 15 cents, and the 5210 Fire Department to 9.5 cents. Reduce the expenses in the manager's proposed budget by $22 million. The majority of these expenses are designated as capital outlay related. We'll appropriate $500,000 to the Johnston County Economic Development Corporation to develop and fund an economic development program in Johnston County to attract new or expanding businesses in the JOCO Building Reuse Program, and in concurrence with the RTZ board on maintaining an 8-cent property tax rate for the RTZ. Mr. Chairman, I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the budget?
I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman, and a clarification. The $180,000 of town micro, we had appropriated $150 for micro for that community building. In a previous year, that did not get used. The plan was put off, so that just clarifies that. And the harbor, I think we had appropriated $250 for over 2 years, and that's part of that $325. And the other question I had was the Triangle Land Conservancy. All of that is to preserve land in Johnston County. Do you know if any of it, does it include farmland, production farmland?
So to clarify that, there is 110 acres, and I asked about farmland that are currently farmland that will be preserved, and that is the whatever that was, $110,000 or whatever that was. Yeah, that was that amount. So.
Good. That's all I had.
That's one of the reasons that $110,000 will be used from the PUV rollback fund.
Right. Okay. Good.
Good.
And since we mentioned the PUV rollback, I will say that is money that is collected when farmland is converted to another use. So the board felt strongly that if that's the reason it was collected, that we should take that and use that towards farmland and land conservation. So, any other discussion or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting the proposed budget with the revisions mentioned by Commissioner Harris, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The budget is approved. Thank you.
Go Deeks.
I would have put, yes, sir. Oh, go Deeks. Go Deeks. But there's not any other dogs in a fight here, so we'll go Deeks.
She's gone.
And so I will say, if there's a person in this county who got less sleep over the last month than Rick Hester, I don't want to say, and he maintained proper decorum, and all his dealings with us. So Rick, I want to personally thank you for all that you put up with, and sorry that you lost a lot of sleep, but it's over now. It's over now.
No, his sleepless nights are probably not over.
Well, it'll be other things, yeah. It'll be other things, so. All right, now we'll move on to the public hearing for the 2023 Fire District Boundary Revisions. And I will open the public hearing on that and call on Fire, I don't even know, it's all down there. Ryan Parker, how about that? Fire Marshal. Did I get that right? They left that word out, so I had to fill it in there. To present the purpose of this hearing and the request, so.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. As you said, the purpose of this hearing is to provide the public an opportunity to address the board on the proposed changes to the boundary lines of the fire service districts in Johnston County and pursuant to NCGS 153A, Section 304. The Fire Marshal Division staff review fire service district lines to ensure the movement of parcel lines, residential development, or other potential changes do not cause an increase in fire department response distances while striving to maximize 5-mile coverage from a fire station for insurance grading purposes. A report reflecting all changes to the fire service districts, including maps of the service districts and the adjacent territories, showing the current and proposed boundaries of the districts. A statement indicating that proposed boundary relocations meet the standards and requirements of General Statute 153A, Section 304.3. A plan providing service to the areas affected by the relocation of district boundaries has been on file in the clerk board's office as well as Johnston County Emergency Services Department for public inspection. Following tonight's public hearing, unless there are any objections, I request the board to adopt 2 resolutions to relocate the boundary lines of the said fire service districts and the corresponding fire insurance districts. During the process of proposing and reviewing the changes to the fire service district lines, the affected chiefs met with one another and emergency services staffs to discuss the changes and the impacts. All proposed changes were submitted and agreed upon amicably.
All right, any questions for Mr. Parker?
How many districts, do you know offhand how many districts were affected?
All districts received some form of change, whether it be by natural boundary change or a relocation of property.
I got you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak to this, please come forward and state your name. All right, seeing no one making a move to come forward, any final comments or questions by the commissioners? All right, well, I will close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of adopting the resolutions, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, next up we have another public hearing, on this time on the Research and Training Zone proposed extension of boundaries. So I will open the public hearing on that and call on our counsel, Jennifer Slusser, to come forward to explain the purpose of the public hearing.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before you have a resolution for consideration annexing additional property into the Johnston County Research Training Zone. Back in 2003, the General Assembly passed and ratified enabling legislation which allowed the Board of Commissioners the opportunity to create an economic development and training zone district. And in 2003, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners did just that. All property that is located in this district is subject to a special tax, which is used to support the Johnston County Workforce Development Center. In this way, Johnston County's leading pharmaceutical industries voluntarily participate in the cost of establishing and maintaining a viable and well-trained workforce. On May the 5th, 2023, Johnston County received a petition from Novo Nordisk Pharmaceutical Industries, LP, requesting that the Board of Commissioners extend the boundaries of the training district. And in your packet, you have a copy of a report that explains the request and there's also contained within that report maps that show the parcels that would be included into this proposed district. It's two parcels. One is a 6.948 acre parcel, and the other is a 110 acre parcel. And these parcels do qualify for inclusion within the training district based upon the statute. This request was submitted by Novo Nordisk Pharmaceuticals, and Leland Wilford with Novo Nordisk is here if you have any specific questions for her. But at this time, the request is to add these two parcels into the training district, and the effective date of that would be July of 2023.
Is any of this in the Clayton ETJ?
It is not.
Okay,
And there was no objection received from the RTC board.
good.
All right, is there anyone else present who wishes to speak to this item? Any questions for our guests from Novo Nordisk? All right, and now finally, any other comments? All right, I will now close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt a resolution extending the boundaries of the RTC as proposed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
You know, in the past, some of this, when it involved some other municipalities, there was some difficulties from time to time, but I think everybody's on board on this one.
Pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next up, we have a presentation on the Microtransit update from Mr. Neil Davis.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. I would like to, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to do this pilot program for microtransit here in Johnston County. It was a revolutionary idea that you folks were willing to provide some seed money for a year ago, and with that, we were able to give you the results of what we've been able to accomplish with that study. So I've got a few slides I'd like to share with you with some data. And the first image you see is our brand new building. I cannot pass up an opportunity to talk about that, and I want to give a special shout out to Commissioner Godwin. He was chairman of the commissioners back when we won the federal grant for that, and was generous enough to support the local matching funds from the county commissioners. So
It's good to see it come to fruition.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But with that comes a great deal of responsibility. As we all know, Johnston County is moving from a historically rural county to now a more urbanized environment, particularly in the western part of our county. And we at JCATS have taken that very seriously, and in response to requests for what do we do about public transportation here in the county. And we have examined many options over the last few years and have studied what might be some of the better approaches to try to deal with a county where we have so many residents spread out in a large geographical area, but we also have a large concentration of residents in more urbanized communities like Clayton and Smithfield, Selma. It turns out that the technology has come along to enable us to do something that's never been possible before, and that's called microtransit. And what makes that work is the technology behind the scenes that lets a rider make a request in real time using an app on their phone, or even making a phone call to say, I need a ride now in the next number of minutes, for example. And we can take that request and now pair it up with the nearest available vehicle that also has the seating capacity available to take care of that request. That's a new model. It could not be done manually. It takes technology to make that work. And with the money that you folks provided to us, we've been able to develop that capability. And so I want to show you what it looks like. We launched on March 1st a service called Quick Ride. And that is the microtransit pilot that we've been referring to, and we designated it with a different name to differentiate it from our historic paratransit service. So Quick Ride, it has no rider restrictions. Anyone is eligible to ride. Doesn't matter about age or any other factors. The only limitation is you have to be in the service zone that service is currently able to cover. So we launched that in the Smithfield-Selma area, and the blue map that you see outlines the service zone that was created specifically for the microtransit program. We worked with the Johnston County GIS department to create the technology, the shape files they're called, to send to our software technology folks to actually be able to electronically place this map inside the app so that it automatically understands where the rider is with regard to whether or not they're inside or outside of the zone. So it's really a ride-hailing service, much like a taxi, a lot like Uber or Lyft. And as I mentioned earlier, rides can be requested with an app on your smartphone, or you can make a phone call and do it that way. We charge a $6 fare for each ride, and that can be paid by way of credit card through the app, or it can be paid by credit card over the phone, or it can be paid in cash at the time that you board the vehicle. That $6 fare is the same fare we charge for all other fare-based services here in the county, so it's uniform in that regard. To market the program, we did a partnership with our software provider and created a 5x7 postcard mailer. And what you see on the screen is the front and back of that mailer. We mailed, our providers mailed out 6,200 of these, and those all went to residents that were addresses inside of the service zone that we're talking about. So they went out, and we also, part of that program included ads on social media, so Google ads, Facebook ads, all of that was part of that program. And this chart simply shows some of the data from that. And you can see that we had 145,000 display ads on social media. So a lot of us that scroll through Facebook, if you were to ever, in your searches, use the word transit or public transportation or JCATS or any of those keywords, it picks up on that and will display that ad for Quick Ride as well. So what do the numbers look like? So what we have here in this slide are the results of the first 90 days of the actual service in the Smithfield-Selma pilot study area. During that period, we booked 862 rides. Part of those were test rides, and some of those were, of course, unsuccessful credit card payments and things like that. So the net from all that was just over 1,600 completed rides in the first 90 days. Of those, 461 rides were booked by the smartphone app, and 1,147 rides were booked via telephone call-in. 158 rides were paid via the credit card or by the app, and 1,450 rides were paid with cash. And we wanted to keep up with that just to see the value of the app and how it was being adopted by the general public.
Quick question,
Next
Neil.
slide.
Quick question, Neil.
Yeah.
Have you seen the evolution of transition to that smartphone app as the program has progressed?
Yes, yes. As more and more people learn about it and get comfortable with it. And I'll address that further too, Commissioner, because it's a great question as to what the feedback has been about the app. Yeah, so I'll be sure and cover that here in just a second. This chart shows what the purpose of those rides were. So those 1,608 rides are graphically broken down as to the type of ride or the purpose of the trip. And, you know, we were somewhat surprised, but not totally surprised, that almost half of the rides have to do with work. People going back and forth to work. So employment is an important component of the microtransit service, and it demonstrates an interest of people who are wanting to use public transportation more and more simply to get back and forth to work. Another large group of rides, of course, were what we call general purpose, and that's a combination of folks that are going coming through town to do banking or shopping or groceries and restaurants and that type of thing. You'll also notice that there's an interesting number of rides of folks going back and forth to the public school system and also Johnston Community College. And so those are either student-related or employee-related, but that's the destination where they're going.
I had a question on the medical rides. Is that for services different from what JCATS already provides, or was it?
It's a combination, yeah, and I don't know, you know, for every single rider what their purpose was, but yeah, it could be someone that could have been riding under another program that might like the convenience of being able to schedule a ride in real time on demand. And being willing to pay the fare. But most of those are going to be rides for people that were not eligible for another program.
Okay.
Yeah. The software provider that we work with on this effort also has produced a case study, and I've mentioned this simply because I think it's something we can be proud of, that JCATS has been recognized certainly regionally and now nationally as being one of the early systems of our size to do what we're doing in a program like this. And so we're pretty proud about that. We didn't have to go and bring in a third party to provide cars and drivers and all the technology. We were able to grow it using the resources that we already had on hand. One of the reasons it's taken till now to get the pilot study completed was the availability of new vehicles. Supply chain issues, and along with the delay in the state contract for vehicles not getting renewed until more recently, slowed it down a little bit. So we were hoping to have this completed earlier than now, but that was the limitation. So we got 90 days worth of data. We would like to have 180 days worth of data, but we've got 90. So, okay, that's where we are. In terms of feedback, Commissioner Godwin, I'll get to your point here because that was a great question. We talk to our drivers, we talk to the riders, and there's a lot of information that we're bringing back as to what folks are saying about it. And so what I'm giving you is a summary of the responses that we've gathered from those 1,600 rides that we were able to get responses to some of our discussion from. People would like to see the hours expanded. Right now, the ride service begins at 7 a.m. and concludes at 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Folks love that, but in conjunction with work hours, they'd like to see those hours expanded. They would also like to see the service available on weekends. It turns out that a lot of riders work Monday through Friday, and that only gives them Saturday and Sunday to do their personal chores and run their errands. So they would like to see it expanded to include weekends as well.
Can I interrupt you, sir?
Yep.
So you're going to do a study in regard to weekend, or you don't offer it now as far as weekend coverage?
Right. Under the current pilot model, we're operating from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And people are saying to us, that's great, but we would like to see that expanded. So a decision is yet to be made about how we'll go about that.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep. A lot of folks are asking about moving or expanding the service into the Clayton area. Obviously, that's a large urbanized section of the county. So we can think about Clayton, Archer's Lodge, Wilson's Mills, the 4042 area, even on down toward Benson. All of that whole corridor is prime territory for additional microtransit service. The other interesting question, I think Commissioner Godwin, you alluded to, was using the app. We have found that the older generation folks who are not necessarily into smartphones and technology tend to like to pick up the phone and call us. Yep. They still are happy to pay with a credit card. A lot of them will have cash available. And one of the conclusions we made about that is probably a little more education on how to use the app, maybe a short video on our website, something along those lines would help folks with that. But that was a interesting find. And last but not least, we asked about the fare. Did anyone have any concerns about the $6 fare? Overall, everybody was well satisfied with it and thought it was a great value, particularly compared to what the alternative cost might have been. The big question is, when can it grow and where can it grow into? So a lot of great positive feedback. So the question then becomes sustainability, and how do you continue providing the service and even consider expanding the hours of the weekday and even the weekends. And so what I've got here is just some back of the envelope type math to show you, what the costs kind of look like. We're looking at about a $500,000 budget to do 5 vehicles running, Monday through Friday. If we assume that the capacity for that type of service with 5 vehicles running those hours would total up to be like 32,000 rides a year. So we would have the capacity to do that. So the funding cost that I put together assumes that we reach that level of demand. Okay, we're not there at this point, but we wanted to show you what it could look like and that we do have the capacity to provide that many rides. So the total cost, and we take the fares and add that back in to providing the service. So those fares go right back into the help keep the cost down. For FY24, we were fortunate enough, and I just got word late this afternoon from NCDOT that we were approved for a $394,000 grant. There's no local match required for that. So the $500,000 budget that I've just alluded to, we've got $394,000 assured to us already from NCDOT, which I think speaks a lot to their support of what we're doing, and they're interested in seeing this continue. So I realize you've just adopted this current year's budget, and I was going to ask you to consider $126,000 to round that part up along with what the state is providing to do that. But we'll go forward the best we can with the money that the state has provided to us. What I would like for you to also consider is when we talk about moving into other service zones, such as Clayton and the 4042 area, we'll need to talk about capital for vehicles and also the operational costs. So that's a quick 90-day summary or a summary of a 90-day pilot, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions you may have. And I thank you for your interest.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah, Neil, thanks for being so innovative. You did a great job, and I apologize for me not knowing a lot. Okay, in that operating, the map up there, you got to live in that area, right? And you got to want to go somewhere in that area. Is that correct?
You don't necessarily have to live in it, but the ride has to originate in that area.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to be a resident of the area, but you would need to be in that area requesting a ride to some other destination inside the same area.
It's okay. So it's in. Okay.
So if you were hypothetically a commissioner who wanted to
go to
leave after lunch, you could start here and ride somewhere else and come back.
Yeah, the pizza.
It does work.
At the Pizza Inn in Selma. Yeah.
You've got a certain amount of fixed costs. Will you arrive at some point of saturation of rides that will knock down that deficit? Does that make sense? If you get more rides, are you going to catch up that gap?
Mm-hmm. The cost model approach that we're using now is based on an hourly cost of service, and it doesn't compute well to try to do on a mileage-based model. Mm-hmm. Because the idea is you have to have the vehicles sitting there ready to go, right, and you have to have the drivers ready to go whether there's a ride or not. And the cost for whether you've got one person on board or 4 or 5 people on the board is factored into our cost model anyway. So we based the model on an hourly cost to operate. And that number is $50 an hour. That pays for everything it takes to run the vehicle for an hour. Drivers, gas, insurance, all of that.
You know, years ago when CSS, Citizen Senior Services, was looking for a new executive director, I was lobbying hard for this fellow named Neil Davis, and he has proven to be a good addition to that. And now, since he's retired, he's brought his expertise to JCATS. And I don't think without his innovative background we'd be where we are on this. I thank you, Neil. Congratulations to you.
And if I may, I'd like to recognize our new executive director, Josh Johnston. He's here and catching on very quickly. So it's a great time to be in transportation. Gentlemen and ladies, this is an exciting time for our county as we're moving into a more urbanized environment every week and every month. And JCATS is really excited about the idea of trying to expand our service offering. And microtransit is the model that is really new in public transportation. And I think it's going to be a great fit for what we're doing here. We've talked about mobility hubs, you know, how that ties in with all the other modes of transportation, whether it's bicycle, pedestrian, automobile. So microtransit fits right into that grand scheme of improving transportation for everyone, regardless of, you know, the type of ride they're trying to provide. So this proves to us that it's a viable model. You know, we didn't know for sure what the demand would really look like, and we intentionally made a soft marketing approach to this because we were afraid we might overwhelm ourselves with demand. So we have been quite low key about it. We did the mailer just one time, and a lot of the growth we've seen in the ridership has largely been due to word of mouth. You know, when somebody rides and they have a good experience, they tell somebody else. And so we're averaging about 50 rides a day right now. If we were to continue marketing that and picking that piece of it up, I'm sure that would continue to climb. So I believe that we're on to a great solution going forward for Johnston County, and I feel real good about it.
I was riding my bicycle the other day. One of these little buses passed me. It's a neat little vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
the other thing, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to say electric vehicles are coming down the pipeline. They already have developed one for transit vehicles like we use. When we built our building, we put in 10 EV charging stations. We had grant funds to do that. Those electric vehicles are ideal for a microtransit zone because it's a small area. Our average ride is about 4.5 miles in length. So when we talk about greening the environment and all those types of things, this again fits. Electrification of a fleet fits well with a microtransit service model.
The only downside is, well, on that new campus, he had to take down the old buckeye tree that we had in the front yard.
I'm sorry about that, yeah. I did think about you when I saw that happen. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't want to get in the reminiscing of the buckeye tree, but I do want to say that this program, I think, is vitally important, and I'm very excited about the report that you've given. These are real situations. I know people today that are benefiting from this. One lady in particular who was walking 6 miles to work in the morning and 6 miles home every evening, rain or shine. She never missed a day's work. She was always there. She would not tell anyone she was doing this, but she couldn't afford to pay for a taxi cab. And so this is an alternative for her that is fantastic. And so this has been a real life changer for this individual. And so there's a lot of people out there that do not have an ability to move around, and I think this is something that's great. I love it. I want to see it continue to grow and cover different parts of the county because there's a lot of people that need help, and this is a great way to get them out and about to the grocery store, to work, to to school. That's also exciting to see people are utilizing that to get to our community college and or to the public school system. So, well done. Please keep it up, and we need to keep moving forward with it.
I think the question for all of us and our funding partners and those of us who JCATS talk about this a lot is sustainability and developing a fee-based model of some sort that would generate sustainable recurring revenue to help, maintain the service. So those are things we can talk about going down the road. Living from grant to grant, these are competitive grants. They're not allocated funds, so it's difficult to really have a lot of confidence in sustaining the program when you're living off of discretionary grant models. So that's something we all, I think, in the entire public transportation segment, need to work toward is addressing that model any way we can. So that's my request. I know where you are with the budget for this year, but we appreciate your support that you've provided so far.
I did have a couple of questions for you. One, on the case study, if there's any information to our public information office that we could share out of that to promote it. And I will say, I will agree with you that the word of mouth is growing, and to hear that we're 50 and you want, I think, a maximum of 125, we're 40% of the way there by word of mouth. Because I know I talk to other groups, and they say, "Oh, really? I didn't know about that." And employers, in particular, are interested in it. So I know if you were to really put full court press on getting word out there, that I think that ridership would definitely go up. So that is good to see. I did have a couple of questions though on the grant. What does that entail? That was going to be expanded, improved, or whatever with the grant?
The grant that we applied for is rural operating funds, and in it, an eligible use of that is microtransit.
Okay.
That was sort of a late-breaking eligibility component, and we applied for it sort of at the 11th hour, to be honest with you, as did a number of systems. It was a competitive grant, and they had more requests than they had dollars, so they pared all the requests back. Our original request was for $520,000, and we ended up with $394,000. And that's where we were talking about another 126, hopefully from another source to help round that out. But that was the idea behind that, and those are eligible funds. And the other good news was that $394,000 is available with no local match required. So even if we didn't do anything else, the state has assured us of that much anyhow.
So is that yet to be determined how that will be spent? Is more, longer hours, more days, or expanded area? Is that still to be determined?
The grant contract agreement has not been produced yet.
Okay.
So yeah, right now all we have is a affirmation of the amount. Yeah.
Okay. And I would just say is, as you look at that and expand to be sure to and come back and bring that information to us.
Okay.
And I think that was it. And I don't know, was it Mr. Brumfeld, who we met with him on Friday, the director for the Integrated Mobility Division of the DOT, to discuss, and a lot of it was microtransit amongst other bike ped and other opportunities that are out there. So I guess he'll have to come down, and we'll have to do some kind of great celebration on receiving that grant. So
he's been a great supporter of microtransit, and certainly been a great asset to DOT, that's for sure. Yeah.
Any other questions?
One comment. I don't know how you do it, because there's a tremendous amount of competition out there for the drivers, but you have some of the most caring, competent drivers. I'm hearing a lot of good things about your drivers, that the people love them, and they seem to want to work long hours.
It's amazing.
You never have a problem getting somebody to work, they say.
Yeah. We are very blessed with, one of the things we've worked hard, like you do in any organization, is developing a culture of pride and commitment. And when you get a majority of the people on board who feel and think that way, then the newcomers come along and they join right in. And if they don't fit in, they move along. But we're very proud of our culture at JCAS, and I thank you for saying that. Another thing that didn't hurt is giving them a nice place to work.
Yeah.
They love their building. They think a lot of it. And, I don't know how you gentlemen are, but I like to stand in my shop and just look around. And we call it standing around, you know. And you're not doing anything. You're just standing around, admiring what you have. And I asked some of the guys, I said, do you ever just stand around in this building? And they said, yeah, we stand around.
You've got good morale, I have to say that.
So, you know, I thank you for that, but really we're very proud of the fact that we're providing a good service, a good work environment. We work hard, and Mr. Johnston has put forth a budget next year that ensures our drivers a higher pay rate. We're having to compete with school bus drivers and everybody else, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, all of them need drivers. And so it's a challenge. And, you know, our JCAT's budget feels the impact of payroll. But we're doing our best to pay these folks what we need to pay them. So thank you for that, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
Well, his comment led me to one more thing to ask, but I did want to piggyback on that. I know the two ladies that were the drivers on the rides that I was on, not only very personable, but their knowledge of what was going on in the ridership and who was riding with them was phenomenal to hear them be able to tell me, oh, there's people using it for this, they're using it for that. So it's very, very educational for me getting on there and learn from the drivers what was going on. The other thing, you'd mentioned the budget, and I think there's $445,000 in this coming budget, and I didn't know if you can touch on some of that was for in broad categories. You don't have to get into the weeds.
Yes. We make our local match request to the commissioners at the time of our current, you know, the coming year's fiscal budget grant applications with DOT. And so we come to the commissioners each year with the local match request for our 5311 funds, which are administrative overhead allocations, and we also have a capital local match requirement. So any vehicles and anything that's in the capital category requires a local match. So that most of that money you're seeing there has to do with local match requirements for those grants. Yep. I'll mention one more thing. We've talked about MPOs here earlier in the meeting, and we are now eligible in Johnston County for 5307 funds. That's money for urbanized areas. And so DOT is still working out the arithmetic on how that will look for us, but I do believe that we'll see some additional funds coming into JCATS out of the 5307 allocation formula. They will have very specific uses that will be attached to those, but it's another sign of the times that you know, we're becoming eligible for more urbanized sources of funds that we've never had access to before. So that tells you right there where we're headed in terms of urbanization, and so that's a good thing.
All right. Anything else? Neil, thank you. Mr. Johnston.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to having you in Neil's spot here in future meetings. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yes, sir. Didn't want to put any pressure on you.
Ladies.
All right, next up we have 2022 AC water main replacements, and Ms. Chandra Farmer, our utilities director, is going to come forward and present that to us.
Yes, we have bid this project. We received 4 bids on May the 11th. The low bidder was from J.F. Wilkerson Contracting out of Morrisville, North Carolina. We have a proposed budget in front of you, the existing budget and the proposed revised budget. You may recall we have already accepted a 1.1% SRF loan for this project. That's a 20-year loan, which was a really nice interest rate. We might not see a lot of those coming up in the future. So we are recommending award of this project to J.F. Wilkerson in the amount of $5,705,930. Approval of the revised project budget, approval of the revised capital project ordinance, and approval of the award resolution contingent upon the funding agency approval.
All right, any questions?
In the municipalities, a lot of these lines are fed, the county lines that are actually making connections with the municipalities. Is there an effort underfoot for the municipalities to get their AC out of their system.
Some
too.
of the municipalities are working towards that. Yes, some of those have some of those projects. This project is, you know, just the ones that the county owns. This will get the AC out of the county-owned portion of the system. The water distribution systems owned by the towns will be up to those towns. But I know some of them are working. In fact, we're partnering with Kinley on this project. As you can see, I should have mentioned this. The town of Kinley will be reimbursing us a portion of our cost on this project because we have partnered with them to connect it, where this connects to their system to get some of their AC lines
I thought
out.
Kenny.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, I was at a recent town meeting, and I know they're working on this stuff now. So y'all putting all that together. Okay.
I make a motion, we accept the bid and move forward with this project.
I second it.
All right, and that includes revising the project budget?
Yes, sir. It can
All right.
Revising the project budget.
All right, any other discussion on that? All right, we have a motion to second. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. All right, I believe that brings us to manager reports and comments. So, Mr. Hester?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and congratulations on the budget adoption. One idea I wanted to share with you is, as we look ahead to capital project planning, and with that comes our financial aspects of that and how we pay for things, I just wanted to mention the idea of maybe a fall, September, October timeframe for if the board would consider maybe a half-day work session, maybe at the airport or somewhere like that, and talk about our finances, and maybe we'll have Davenport there. And I thought even about, about a year ago, Mosley came and provided a report on the space study they did, and it might be a good time to kind of get an update on that since a year goes by. Things are changing so fast, and so just an idea I want to throw out tonight, and I think it would be good before the board gets into a lot of heavy capital decisions. I think that would be a good exercise. Maybe the way things are changing so much, it might be a good thing to do every year, but that would be certainly up to the board.
Yeah, I would just say that as the financial stewardship priority, that it definitely falls in that. I know we've got a lot on our plates, a lot still going to come on our plates, and with the financial situation the way it is, I think that's probably a great idea that we do that in the fall, because we'll get a chance in the spring at or around the retreat
Sure.
to do that as well. So
The good thing about it too is that you have your end of year numbers that are still ongoing for a couple more weeks. Then you'll have the new budget you just adopted, so all that will go into the formula, set a new foundation for capital planning. So thank you very much.
all right,
Thank you, Rick.
thank you. All right, now it's time for board reports and comments. So Commissioner Braswell.
In conjunction with what Rick just said, I would imagine that shortly we'll be moving to the new jail, and we'll start looking at how we're going to restructure with Mosley, how we're going to restructure the space that'll be left here so we can utilize it for the court system.
Yeah, I know the clerk's anxious to get some space.
Yes. Commissioner Godwin.
We've been led to believe in our discussions that we need to make a decision about this Campo or new MPO by the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. But in talking with the DOT representatives most recently at our meeting last Thursday, there's really more flexibility there. I think they have set a soft deadline just internally for their own purposes, but I really probably got nearer to the end of the calendar year. And towards that end, I'd like to see us either postpone or table this decision, and as the Mayor's Association, the majority of those would like to see that, and maybe get economic development involved, and make sure we all understand the pluses and the minuses in the long range, and not do something right now that 2 years from now we might regret doing, and can't do anything about it for another 8.
I think Campo is the cream of the crop.
I do too.
And I think that we need to be real careful and cautious moving forward. I think right now we need to stick with them, not being in the middle of making any changes, because it's going to take a long time to get a new MPO off the ground and get everything.
And you know, strictly short-term, it'd be best to stay there perhaps. But the majority of the county is not in Campo, it's in RPO, and if we could get all of that under an MPO, the DOT has pointed out that we could get more possibility for submitting projects for consideration for points. Again, it's a long-range situation. A year from now, we might not think it's the thing to do to create a new one, but 5 years from now, I think we'll be glad we did. That's where I'm coming from.
All right. I'll continue that when it gets around to my turn, Commissioner Godwin. Commissioner Harris.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of thank yous to all the folks. You know, we're wrapping up the budget adoption, and I just want to once again say how much I appreciate Mr. Hester and Ms. Slusser and Mr. McLam, Chad McLam, our finance director, our clerk to the board and deputy clerk, all the folks who behind the scenes work diligently to make all this happen. And I really, really appreciate their cooperation and help and their work and putting into it. And also the fellow commissioners, those of you who have phone calls and compromises and discussions, and it's been a lot of work, and we've made it again. We've never, I jokingly say we've never missed a budget yet, and we won't miss this one, but there is a lot goes into it. And so I just want to tell you how much I appreciate everyone's cooperation and understanding and willingness to you know, look at the facts and make good, prudent decisions. So thank you for that, and appreciate the opportunity.
I think in all of our comments, we should have thanked you, Commissioner Harris, because you put in, I think you put in more work than Rick has on this one.
No, not that. No doubt.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far. Or Chad, or Jennifer, yeah.
I mean, in the last 2 weeks.
I haven't stressed over it as much as Mr. Hester has either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Commissioner Braswell?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I got a couple items. Number one, in the budget, we passed fully funding the school system this year, and I think that shows our commitment to education for the county. And so I also want to see commitment and accountability from those who administer this, the school policies, better known as the Board of Education. So we've made our commitment. We still have things that we need to find out about how the scores were this year in regard to 2023 compared to the number of failing schools that we have. So I'm simply saying that we've always been committed to education. Number two, and my colleague Commissioner Godwin is not going to be happy with me, but he'll get over it. Mayor Raines brought up attention of the I-42 now, I guess, committee or whatever they're called. I just certainly hope when they do repairs and additions in Wilson Mills and when they do it in Princeton, that they certainly don't do what they did to Pine Level over there. First of all, the first thing is they got a road that is 2.1 miles long. It's not even a pavement road. It's one of them tar and rock roads. It's a 6,000-pound limit road, and it has 61 mailboxes on it, and that's a thoroughfare to Highway 70 and Highway 42, and it's ridiculous. When they had another road right beside it that they could easily, with less than 18 residents on a road, to make that a thoroughfare. So I only simply say, if they did it to us, they'll do it to Wilson Mills and they'll do it to Princeton. So be very, very careful.
I just wanted
Commissioner Stevens, yes.
Echo what Commissioner Braswell said about the schools and hoping that all the funds are appropriated with the way that they should be, and hopefully, you know, no teacher is going to go without, no student is going to go without in the upcoming year. So I'm just excited we did that. I'm happy to work alongside them to ensure that happens.
All right. And I had a couple things. I'll finish up with the MPO discussion, but I did want to point out that as part of our consent agenda, we're going to make it a change to our location for our July 17th meeting, or at 6 o'clock. That's in order to hold a public hearing for Envision Johnston 2040, our proposed Johnston County Land Use Plan, and that meeting will be held at the Agriculture Center Auditorium. So again, the July 17th, 6 o'clock meeting will be held at the Agricultural Center Auditorium and not here. So, and that is primarily for the, well, it is solely because of the public hearing for the land use plan. And then finally, I did want to bring up the MPO and the discussion on that. We have been talking about this for at least a couple months. I want to say 3 months. We've had 2 meetings with the DOT and Campo. We had a presentation here at a recent meeting. So we have had a lot of time to discuss this. And from the very first meeting until Commissioner Godwin mentioned the 6:30 deadline was flexible, it's the first I'd heard that was a flexible deadline. So, and you have in your packet a draft letter to send to the DOT recommending to stay in Campo. And I guess we'll eventually ask for this, but I'm going to ask for get this consensus of the board that we move forward and send that. I do want to point out and bring up some discussion on the when we would get extra money. Right now, with the population, let me say that the urban area that we're talking about is Archer Lodge, Clayton, and portions of Cleveland, McGee's, and almost to Benson. So that is at 50,000. And there's some funds associated with being at 200,000 in an urban area. So and that's not in the entire county, that is in the urban area. And just looking at growth numbers, I don't think even if we're to 150 in 2030, we're not at 200 in the urban area. So we're looking at another 10 years. So for us to get access to those funds, which are currently available to us as a part of Campo, we could potentially be waiting 15 years to get 200,000 people in there. Commissioner Braswell had mentioned Campo being the cream of the crop. I think they are indeed the cream of the crop in North Carolina. There's not any other organization, MPO, that I can think of that has done as much for its members, and that includes Johnston County and Clayton. I was on the council in Clayton and part of the Campo board there. I've seen the structure they have, the ability to bring dollars in, the strategic thinking that they bring, and you mentioned points that they bring to applying points. It isn't taking a bad project and just putting a bunch of points on it because you have points to give away. It is taking those marginal projects to make the score and applying those points to make sure that those projects get on the list. And I think that is probably a value they bring that it will take us a long time to match. So I will ask for the consensus of the board if we are willing to go ahead and send that letter in. The DOT has stated numerous times, and evidently last week they made an exception to extend that. And I think that we've talked about it. We've heard enough. I think it is the best decision for Johnston County going forward. There's an opportunity to bring other towns into Campo in a strategic process, and I think that we will eventually see that expand into further into Johnston County than it is now. So, and I'll just start since I'm looking at you, Commissioner Stevens. If you would prefer to wait, or go ahead and send the draft letter on.
I think we're good to send the draft letter. I'm good to send a draft letter on.
Commissioner Bradley.
I support Campo.
I'm for Campo.
All right.
Y'all realize we're a very small cog in that great big wheel.
I disagree with that. We are in a different division than Wake County. We're not competing with Wake County, but I don't know that this is the place to get into debate of all that, but we do not compete with Wake. They're in a different division. Division 4 has its own pool of money that we are part of. So, but with that, I will go ahead, and if we can finalize that draft letter, then make it final, and we'll send it on. All right, anything else? I think we have a need for a closed session.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to go into closed session for the reasons stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And for those who want to know, we will not be taking any action after we return from closed session. So with that, we'll give a minute for the room to clear, and then we will be in closed session.